Hi there, everybody. I first want to just thank you all for being very patient with me this week. As most of you know, if you've read your news, your most recent news update from me, my very close, near and dear friend of almost 10 years now suddenly lost her father very unexpectedly. So it's been a challenging week to say the least. It's going to, a little bit of this grieving, if you will, is going to fall over into next week. The funeral is Monday, but I did just want to check in and let you guys know that I'm not completely absent. I'm still following your posts on your forum, especially this week, seeing that it's student to student. In the past, the student to student forums, I really haven't been that big of a presence. Pop in here and there to kind of give my 2 cents, but that's really it. I have been able to see that everyone posted their original posts like they needed to. And then by today is the deadline to respond to a few peers. Moving forward, I want to just kind of talk about a few things so that I know we're all on the same page. Now that we're getting into more policy stuff, you guys might start to, hopefully, you're thinking about policies that are either already in place or maybe are changing or something that you want to change. As transformational leaders and as change agents, we should always be thinking of what's coming next. If we're always focused on status quo or okay in a comfortable zone, I promise you, when change does come, and change is one of the most constant things that happens, however ironic that may be, then you're not putting yourself in a very good position to be a very, good leader. Um, so the more comfortable we can get with change, the better, and the more comfortable we can get with policy from a stakeholder standpoint. And our stakeholders matter more than anything. We don't want to policy ourselves into a corner, and policy can be very political. Um, there's a lot more out of our control than in our control when it comes to policy. And sometimes we have to consider, is this policy going to benefit the general population for the greater good, or is this going to benefit a singular individual? And we all know, probably working with policies, written policy manuals, or writing them yourselves, that we may benefit over here, but how is this going to sacrifice something somewhere else? There's no perfect way to write these. However, it is important to not only think about the policy itself, but consider how flexible it can be down the road, how it's going to adapt down the road, and understand and accept that external forces are going to perturbate your internal environment to change. And your policies need to be strong enough to withstand perturbations, or you need to create an environment where those that you're leading, or hopefully your leaders have created this environment, that you're going to be able to overcome these changes. Your policies can adapt to these changes so that you're not stuck in this concrete cinder block of this is how we function. I've been in so many places where there's this thing called cultural lock-in, and policies haven't changed for such a long time, and this culture has been adopted that it is either going to meet its imminent extinction, or it's going to be like swimming through concrete trying to make the changes. And as leaders, it is our job to make sure that our environment, our followers, those who we're leading, our patients, whatever that those people are in whatever capacity they may be, are ready for those changes, or that we're making the changes within our policy to meet those demands. So many of you have already brought up different policy like situations in your forum posts and just certain things that you're dealing with, and I think that's wonderful. I think we all are able to learn in real time when we talk about real life examples. I can give you case scenario after case scenario, but until you truly experience and understand the situation firsthand, do you learn the most. So that's why this week I am charging you with the assignment of this policy brief. In the assignment description, using the readings and videos from the prior weeks, you're to identify a health issue or trend that interests you. It should be related to your practice. So I understand all of you are in SLP, but although you're all in the same profession, some of you are facing very different barriers or very different obstacles, possibly impeding the type of leader you want to be, and you should talk about that, or impeding the way in which you see your profession growing. I know personally athletic training is dealing with a lot of that right now, and I'm sure we're not the only ones. So I'd love to hear from your side of things what that looks like. It does say in the assignment description to prepare a 5-page double-spaced issue brief, roughly 700 words. I'm not really, I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure if 700 words is exactly 5 pages. I really just guess. I could be way off. But what I really want you to focus on is trying to keep it under 5 pages. I know when you open the ancillary material to help you format it, it looks really scary. But I've just provided a lot of resources for you and definitions and just more of a buffer to get your mind in the right place when writing this brief, and what components need to be included. So you're going to write that 5-page paper on this issue and address those areas that I'm talking about. State the issue clearly and what you view as causes or concerns. Determine what type of policy would be best suited to address the identified concerns and why you chose this type of policy. There is a resource under your tabs file. So if you go to tabs and go all the way down to rubrics, there is a policy brief guide, if you will, and it provides a lot of helpful information for exactly what this should look like. So a brief, if you've never written one, is a very formal and almost like pre-formatted form. I don't know the best way to describe it. Pre-formatted manuscript. That's a better word. And you have to follow each component in order to present almost a white paper. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with white papers, but they're very common in my profession. And essentially, a white paper is written to present both sides of the issue. What the issue is, where we're getting this data from, and not necessarily how to resolve it, but both sides of the argument. So what we want to do with it moving forward and why we see that to be most beneficial. You need to, although many of you will be passionate about what you're writing about, you need to try to remain as neutral as possible so that the brief isn't slanted one way or another. Just present the facts, present the issue, give me some history, and the other pieces of it that I'm looking for. In case you're not sure what I'm talking about, I just want to be really clear. If you go to materials, as I am doing right now, although you can't see, go all the way to the bottom. Under rubrics for assignments, there's the health issue brief rubric, helpful guidelines and framework. If you open that up, it will pull up a PDF, preparing a policy issue brief, the how-to issue. There's 6 parts. So I understand yours is only supposed to be 5 pages, but those 6 parts are just almost broken up into chapters with the content in each chapter. At the very beginning, I give you a nice introduction of what, why, and how these are done, the different parts to an issue brief. Just, it's important that you stay very organized, you're clear and concise, okay? So, and then the 4th page is a rubric. Your stakeholders are identified, the policy background, how did the issue arise, you're defining the issue, developmental trends, executive summary, and your bibliography. Also, there's a format checklist, no more than 5 pages or 800 words. Again, that's just a very rough estimate, but those 5 pages are excluding your cover page, references, and bib. Make sure it's an APA, you're using all the right formatting, 12-point font, you guys already know all that. Make sure your headers are there and bolded, and then there's a sample cover sheet on the next page, and then the very last page is a sample of what each header should look like, and then underneath each of those headers you obviously need to fill it in with your information. So yeah, I just wanted to check in. I'm sure many of you are already, if not already, starting to work on that, planning on doing it very soon. And those are due October 16th, so 3 days if you haven't started writing it already. I know, 5 pages double spaced isn't a ton. Shouldn't take you too long, but the exercise might seem, 5 pages and all this content. And I've even spoken with a couple other students. It is critical for you in a doctoral program to learn how to give the most necessary advice needed to your audience as concisely as possible, because it's really easy in healthcare and in policy to talk in circles all day long without really getting the meat of the information out there. Like, your reader wants to know what it is and wants to know it quickly, and give me the next piece of advice. What's great for you guys, for me not really having this expertise in SLP, is that when I'm reading it, I should be able to understand exactly what you're talking about. Just like if I were to give you an athletic training piece of literature, something that I'm writing, you should be able to read my dissertation and know exactly what I'm doing. So that's how you know if you're writing concisely or not. Have a peer read it before you send it to me, or have a family member, whatever you do, have it sent to them so that when it gets across my desk, it's very clear and very understood what the issue you're presenting is and why you're presenting it and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got to check in with you guys not this week. This check-in is I'm going to post it for the timeline week this week and next week, because we're going to continue to talk about public policy with some readings, and you're going to be checking out a couple different websites and responding to those. But all in all, I just didn't want you to think I fell off the face of the earth. I'm still here. I'm just working through a lot of catching up with the craziness of the weekend and the news that I got, and lots of grading and checking in on you guys and trying to do my diligence. I appreciate your patience more than you realize, and I will be very active back on here after Monday, after the funeral. So I hope you guys are all having a great week. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email. I will email me on web study. I will be checking those very often. And if I can't get to it, I'll make sure Chris can get to it, okay? So I'm going to get going, but I hope you all enjoyed this video and it was helpful.